So 2 basic closes that you should memorize. That way it makes your life easier when you get into the close, Mr. Mickey. So first off, somebody tells you that they need to think about it, which is the most coined phrase in any buyer basically rebuttal that you're going to find. This one's as easy as pie to get it back to the money. Your whole job right here is to make it get back to the money. Everything else, if you said, is there anything besides price or payment that's keeping us from moving forward today, and they say no, it's only money. Everything else they give you is a smoke screen. Okay? You want to forget the smoke screen, you want to always take it back to the money. So, John and Mary, hey, first we pause 4 seconds, right? So, wow. Okay. Thank you guys for sharing that. Sounds like to me, really, the only reason we're not getting started on the project today is just the fact that you need to think about it a couple of days. Is that correct?
Yeah, and see what other options are out there.
Okay. Well, is that it? Nothing else?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, Mike, when nice people like yourself tell me they want to think about it, generally means one of 2 things, right? It means they haven't found the right company, which is Dreamstyle Remodeling. You did say you're 100% confident with us, right? As far as doing the work on your home, right? So that's not it. It's the product. So we did share with me earlier that you picked the right colors, choices, options, that when it came time was the right product that we did need and you did want on the house, right? So that's probably not it. And the warranty, with a lifetime warranty that covers your installation for the entire lifetime you set on the house, not to mention with the product side of it, there wasn't anything else you're looking for in a warranty, right? So it's got to be the money side, Mike. So so basically, again, when nice people like yourself tell me it's that, generally it's either about the overall investment or the monthly investment that's keeping us from moving forward. So let me ask you a question. How much too much is the $373 a month? Then we always want to take it back to the money, because again, if we buyer gets sucked into their funnel, is what you do. You're almost getting sucked into their funnel, because as salespeople, we're like influencers, right? So our goal is, when we want to try to influence, is we want to try to pull them in. We want to try to pull them back in and out of their own funnel, right? So if they tell me, I want to see what other options are out there, we're almost offended to the fact where we want to jump on that before we analyze it and see if they're telling us the truth or not. So don't get sucked into their funnel. Take it back and make the main thing, which is always the investment to the monthly investment. Does that make sense? Okay. So again, don't get sucked into their funnel at this point, because you've got your commitments and you've pre-closed saying, is there anything besides price or payment to keep us from moving forward today? And they tell you no, then anything from this point is about the money. You can't just say what's the money in it. You can, but you're not going to be as effective. So yet again, pause 4 seconds, John and Mary. Sounds like to me, again, the only reason we're not moving forward is the fact you need a couple days to think about it. Is that correct? Is that it? Nothing else? What you're trying to do is you're trying to isolate, right? If I don't isolate the objection here, then they could stall me, and then as soon as I answer that objection, they can go to another one, and then I'm never done answering these bullcrap, little one-line objections. They're going to keep me there all afternoon trying to get them. That's what we got to ask. So it sounds like to me that's it, nothing else? Yes. So the statement is, John, when nice people like yourself tell me to think about it, generally means one of 2 things. Number 1, they haven't found the right product, company, or warranty. And you did tell me you're 100% confident, trusting Dreamstar Remodeling with the project, right? Number 2, you did say that you've picked out the right colors, choices, options, details, and we took care of all the problems you called us out here today to take care of, to fix. Not to mention the installation was the installation that was needed to take care of the project permanently on the outside of the home, and that the warranty was everything you were looking for when you're looking for a warranty. Is that correct? Yes. So we know it's not the Dreamstyle side. So it's got to be the money side. Let me ask you, is it the overall investment or is the monthly investment what we're keeping us apart, right? So let me ask you, how much too much is the $373 a month? Were you looking at, $275, $300? What were you thinking?
$220.
So again, at that point, whatever they give you is about trying to take it back to the money at that standpoint. Second thing is, other than that one, if you hear the word never, because anything else you should have gotten before you ask is an size, price, or payment. If somebody just tells you before you get to the price, Dustin, it's fine, I never make snap decisions. Okay? So our whole goal here is not to identify and jump down their throat. Generally, the word never means that they have before. Okay? As long as it's nothing crazy. But, generally it's the word never. I never buy on the same day. I never make snap decisions. Well, you got to ask yourself, time out. wait a second, why would somebody tell you that they never make snap decisions or they never buy on the same day? You know, when they go to the gas station, do they walk in the gas station looking for a soda or a candy bar and then leave and come back the next day? Or do they go in there and buy what they need, right? So technically that's a decision. You know, if you think about basically them not making a decision on the same day or never making a snap decision, well, that's a decision not to make a decision, right? So really they're contradicting. There's some kind of fear that's underlying in there. If I don't identify with the fear and what's underlying, hopefully I asked a good enough question about, let me ask you if you ever remodeled your house before. If you did, how did it go? You know, then they might tell you it was a disaster, I hated it, the flooring guy ran off with part of our money, never finished the floor, whatever it was, and identified that story out early. If you didn't get that story or pull that out early, it might make this a little more difficult, but eventually you can still close this, right? So the whole deal is we're trying to protect them from themselves, because at the end of the day, we want them to save that cost savings program, aka initial visit savings, right? We're trying to help them from themselves. It's not talking them into anything, trying to help them from themselves. So the next piece is we want to ask them, you know, John Ray, hey, you know, nice people like yourself. I like the nice people like yourself part. What it is it utilizes and makes them feel a little more comfortable. Right? Nice people like yourself tell me they never make snap decisions. You know, it generally means they have before. Might I ask you a question? Have you made a bad decision on the same night you bought something and realized that you made a pat that you would never do it again?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we bought a car, we did this, we bought our flooring, as we shared with you earlier, and we decided we're not going to do it. It's worth any discount that we're going to save, but we're going to have to pay later just to make sure we've got a sound decision on our mind. Completely understand. If I'm in your situation, I would probably think the same exact thing. So we want to identify, and we want to basically let them know that we understand their frame of thinking, right? So secondly, let me ask you another question if it's okay. Have you ever made a bad decision after you thought about something a day, a week, a month, or a year later, or even several years later, and didn't come out to have the most desired outcome the most desirable outcome either? Well, yeah, we have. So what you're really telling me is that it's not the time frame it takes to make the decision, just how educated you are when you do make that decision. Is that fair? Yes. Well, just like this. If I were a kid and I studied for a test, when did you study for a test?
Well, the night before.
Why'd you do it?
So I remember everything.
So if I went and crammed for a test and everything's fresh in my mind, kind of like today, right? You learned a lot about Windows, probably more than you ever cared about learning.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair enough? Say that inspector came, or say basically the professor came in, and then you were supposed to take that test tomorrow morning, and then literally something came up where he got sick or had a substitute, and that test got pushed off a week, and now you no longer study for that test. Where do you think your memory would be? Diminished, right? So just like today, getting that estimate, similar like taking that test, you probably wouldn't have done as well on that test a week from now as you'd have done right when you crammed, right?
Right.
So what happens in our industry, where a lot of things happen, is basically today you remember everything we shared with you, right? More than you could ever probably retain, because I noticed we didn't take a single note. Not your fault, because you're too busy listening and trying to learn than take notes. But tomorrow morning you wake up, just like when you study for the test, you're probably going to remember half, because if I didn't brush up on that, I probably wouldn't do very good, right? And by the time basically you're on your way to work and somebody cuts you off on your way to work, or you get mad, or you're having to do some big project at work, or something happens, or you get 2 or 3 other estimates that happen inside of there, now you're not going to remember who has what or who sold what. And just like the test, where you wouldn't have done well on that test a week from now, how are you going to do that with basically a home improvement project, right? Because this is probably one of the largest projects that you could ever do. When you look at that, how would you ever make an educated, informed decision off a name and a price? A name and a price, and a name and a price. If you look at that, being honest, not just being confrontational, being honest, how would you make an educated and logical decision based off those facts and figures right there? I think the answer you know, and I know too, is you can't. Just like taking a test a week later after you crammed for it, you didn't really learn that content. You shoved it in so you could basically check the box, right? So when do you think the best time to make an educated and logical decision are? When you have just this in front of you? Or all the facts are sitting in front of you? You know it comes down to 3 things. Do you need it? Do you want it? And can you afford it? And if you answer yes to all 3 of those things, Let me welcome you to Dreamstar Remodeling. Because you and I both know, if I take out 10 different contractors, and I pick the third one on the 13th day, it's not basically the time frame it took to make the decision, it was the contractor I chose. So that good or bad decision is based on about the contractor and what's happening on the project itself, not the time frame it take to make the decision. Let me ask you again. Mike, do you need to have the project done?
Yes.
Do you want to have the project done?
Yes.
And really and truly, with all the mistakes that could happen, aren't you feared that if you don't make a decision, it might be a bad one?
Yeah.
So with that said, can you really afford not to do it, Mike? Can I welcome you to Dreamstar Remodeling?
Sure.
So again, might not work every time, but if you learn those two closes right there and the why back behind it and sympathize, I promise you, you'll change your results dramatically. Because there's only really two things if you did your job that are going to come out. I want to think about it, and I never make snap decisions. Because if you get them to answer anything besides price or payment, why we can't earn your business today, the only things that come out is I want to think about it, which means they're not comfortable with the money, or two, I never make snap decisions, which means they wouldn't have even committed to anything besides price or payment today. So those two things will get you very far. Those are the first two things I would work on. Then we can come back and talk about other companies and all that other fun stuff. That's just a lack of trust is what that is. But work on those two first, and then we'll come back and give you more. Stop.